We love fighting games and all of their fun characters, and on this channel specifically, grapplers are the focus. Fighting games are constantly being influenced by media that surrounds them, and this can affect either characters of how they're presented or how their gameplay actually feels. In modern fighting games, we're still feeling the impact of an anime half a century years old, Kinnikuman. Kinnikuman is a very bizarre and wacky anime that kinda inspired a ton of the current ones that we enjoy. It's fun, it plays the wrestling tropes, and it's very unique for its time, and it inspired a ton of the great ones that we know, for example, One Piece, Dragon Ball, a lot of the key shonens that young people would be really into right now, or back in the day. The thing about Kinnikuman, even though it is pretty cool with some of the way that story beats or the way the characters act, it's really dated. It's really dated. Like, I recommend it for a good time, but you need to remember this was like 1980s Japan. Different time. But the point of this video is to talk about how this anime still has its clutches in modern day fighting games. And I'll have some fun pointing out some references that exist in many games, but let's get started with the main one that I play on this channel, Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear actually has multiple Kinnikuman references that aren't just on Potemkin, believe it or not, but we're gonna get started with the big boy. Potemkin's layer on designs, you could definitely argue, is heavily inspired by Robin Mask. Only keeping the same type of metal helmet type appearance, but they're both very emotive through their eyes. Their little dots are how they kind of sell their emotions, which is very similar to each other. Robin Mask was definitely a key inspiration, as the Potemkin Buster kind of copies his tower bridge pose as he kind of stretches him along his back. Except this is a definite reference to Kinnikuman's Kinniku Buster, as Potemkin will say 48 secret arts in the Japanese and in the English, which is a direct reference to what Kinnikuman says right before doing the Kinniku Buster. So Potemkin is referencing two of its key characters that have had massive rivalries throughout it. Now I know what you're wondering, what other Guilty Gear Strive references could possibly talk about Kinnikuman? And that's Axel Low. When he does this low, Winter's Mantis, this used to be a command grab, but now it's just a low. If this connects on hit, he'll pull them in for a hit grab clothesline. And for anyone that doesn't know, during this clothesline, he'll say, Cross Bomba. And this is a direct reference to Neptune Man's technique, the Cross Bomba Lariat. As he goes in for the clothesline to disarm people's masks, that was his whole technique, and Axel Low does the exact same thing with the same wording. If you had a teammate, they'd be taking masks all day. That was about all the ones I could find in Strive, but now you need to go to Street Fighter 6, and boy is there plenty. Looking at the main guy, Zangief, there's actually quite a lot that you could take from his kit that could be representative of Kinnikuman. First thing is his design. If you look at Kinnikuman's earlier designs with the red pants and the red boots, it is the exact same as Zangief on launch. This was what Zangief was rocking. And you could argue that Zangief's mohawk is similar to the mohawk that's on the Kinnikuman mask. So with design, it's kinda similar. Not a lot, but kinda similar. Zangief also does have big lips at times, very similar to Kinnikuman. He actually uses two of Kinnikuman's techniques, and none of them are grapples, believe it or not. One of them being the Muscle Typhoon, obviously being the lariat where Zangief will spin on the spot to avoid projectiles. And the green hand, you could argue, is very similar to the red rain of pain, except making it green and basically approach like that. He used the red rain to cut through and slice. So you could argue it's similar. It's not really, but you can see inspirations maybe coming from that. The next reference doesn't even go to a grappler, it goes to M. Bison. Yeah, that's right. During Street Fighter 6, when he does his level 2, he will do the Hell's Guillotine, which is a technique used by Akuma Shogun, the bad guy of Kinnikuman, as he is the evil devil Chojin wrestlers. Yeah, this was his finishing technique after doing another technique that we'll get into later. And going towards Alex, boy, does he have nothing but references. There's the Buffalo Man finisher where he'll flip you down like a pancake, but he starts up with the Kinnikuman pose, which is very cool. I like this level 2 a lot. And he'll do the reverse King's Bridge, and as you may know, this is the Napalm stretch done by Kinniku Soldier, which is very iconic from the series. And lastly, we head over to Tekken. These were the big three that I can think of. There's probably going to be way more in Virtua Fighter Crossroads and other games coming, but these are the main games I want to talk about. Going over to King, he is definitely more of a reference to Japanese wrestling, professional wrestling over there, and obviously Tiger Mask, which is with the mask and all that. Like, it's definitely Tiger Mask inspired, but if you look at some of his techniques, they're definitely taken from Kinnikuman. For example, the camel clutch, which is a Japanese hold within wrestling, there's no arguing that. but the way it's done, very similar to Ramen-man's camel clutch. One thing that is a definite reference to Kinnikuman is the Kinniku Buster. This is a safer version of the Kinniku Buster that is made to just harm the neck compared to the original technique, the 48 secret art, made to destroy the entire body on landing. King will land in, deal a solid bit of damage, and it's basically the same posing, except the landing is different. So Kinniku Buster on King is very cool to see. Now you head to Armor King, which you could argue some of his designs were definitely inspired by Akuma Shogun. Maybe the Tekken 7 variant with the way the flail and all that is done, but maybe the Tekken 6 variant, the way the shoulder pads and all that are done. He's definitely inspired by Akuma Shogun in a lot of ways when it comes to that design. And his giant swing is different, and he'll clutch the opponent behind their back, grabbing their arms like this, which is exactly what Akuma Shogun does right before he sets up the Hell's Guillotine. He'll grab them like this and throw them up into the sky. Part of the 9 circle techniques, which, you know, I think you assume what that means. And lastly, one definite reference to Kinnikuman, he will do one of the coolest techniques from the series, one of my personal favorites, the Kinniku Driver, the muscle driver, as he'll pull them out the sky, put his foot on them like a pogo stick, and land down into the ground with a lot of damage and oomph. This was the technique the Kinnikuman used to defeat Akuma Shogun as the Kinniku Buster was countered. Also, fun fact, this Tekken 5 ending is a direct reference to the muscle docking that both Terriman and Kinnikuman do to finish off the kill. This anime has clearly had a huge impact in fighting games throughout its history and in the modern day, still having references to Street Fighter 6 and Guilty Gear Strive. And I could probably find more references if I really wanted to, but I think my point's been made when a lot of your main key characters in these fighting games are referencing them in every interaction. So what was the point of this? Well, the point of this video was to have a little bit of fun and point out some references that you'll see in modern day fighting games, to show you how important the series is to the Japanese market, as well as the impact it'll have on fighting games until it's done, bro. Like, we're still gonna keep seeing stuff to do with this. They've affected all of our key grapplers. Every single one have been affected by this anime, and you've got to kind of thank it for a ton of the inspirations that we've gotten. And the odd thing is, I want to shed more light on Kinnikuman because this isn't very well known in the Western world, and there's a good reason for it, to be fair. Even though this is the Mac Daddy of action animes that you'd see very often, all the key tropes are definitely from here. This is where you get the blaming point. It was very controversial. Starting off as a gag anime turned very serious, where have I heard that one before? Or characters that you certainly could not put in current day shows. For example, any of the earlier mans that showed up, like this Nazi Brocken, and he had the whole thing where he's working to redeem himself and the whole ideology of Nazism, and it's insane. He's a good character, but like, this is insanity. And then you've got a Chinese man who'll talk about his 5,000 year history constantly, and he will turn you into ramen, not even a joke. He'll do camel clutch, break your back, and turn you into ramen. That is horror and nightmare fuel. The most insane thing is that Ramen Man has one of the best redemption arcs in the entire series, and he becomes a real character with a ton of depth and intrigue, and not just stereotypes. I'm not even lying to you, like, he becomes a really good character. Yeah, it's hard to get by the stereotypes though, like this, All this is to say, Kinnikuman is a very awesome series, and I still think he's worth checking out even in the big 2026. Because even though it's super dated, you can see where a lot of key inspirations it came from, and you get to enjoy it for what it was back then. And it's still going to impact fighting games until it eventually just disappears into nothingness. Until then, a lot of your key characters, your favorite grapplers, your favorite anything, are affected by this anime. In this video, I hope I brought some decent awareness to Kinnikuman, a very odd anime that has affected our genre heavily. And if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like, hype, sub, and tell me what you think about Kinnikuman. Have you ever seen it? Have you watched it? Have you enjoyed it? Have you watched Ultimate Muscle like I did and then checked out Kinnikuman afterwards? But that's it, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!